extremely disappointing fashion. I mean, you could say that they were not favorites against Germany, but the fact that they looked frankly very poor in all those games. I mean, there was not one where you looked at it and Argentina looked like a strong, real contender. I mean, they were just barely hanging on. Lots of injuries, lots of pressure on Messi. You had Messi quitting, and so for Argentina, like as they look towards the next World Cup, I think they're thinking, my God, this is just the start of an extremely long process that we know how it's going to end. You know, we've done it before where we have finished first in CONMEBOL. We have finished first in our group, and then we're going to just get tired as the tournament progresses, and then lose another final. And probably Higuaín is going to miss an easy shot, and everyone's going to be yelling at Messi. They've seen this so many times over the last 3 years that I think for them, just for that group of players, and for Argentina as a nation, I think it's one of those soul-searching type moments as to, well, what can we do to really overcome this? I think it really is a sort of hangover or, like an after effect of those 3 just devastating losses that they've had.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, the issues with the Argentina Football Association, Messi, quote-unquote, retiring, but then coming back, hasn't really played much with Argentina as well. It's more focused on Barcelona right now. It's just really a lot of chaos between Argentina, and then a lot of the folks were saying, at least in social media, would say, "Oh, without Messi, they'll why worry? They'll be fine." And then you're clearly seeing some of the results are not. Maybe again they need a little kick in the butt here and there, and they're just not. They're losing to teams that you wouldn't lose to in CONCACAF play or in CONMEBOL play. And the teams above them, I mean, look, you have Brazil, who's not the best team, but again, they're dominating everyone in their region. Uruguay is still really good. Ecuador has been fantastic thus far, exceeding expectations. And then Colombia has just been really good. So they've been great. I think one of the other shockers for me is also Chile, coming off back-to-back Copa America championships, and right now they sit in number 7. So again, they'd be out of the World Cup if it wasn't if it ended today. What needs to change for Chile?
That's a very good question, because to me it is absolutely shocking. I think one of the big differences is that once you are in one of these short tournaments like a World Cup or a Copa America, it's very different than playing the style of the long league style that they have in CONMEBOL. It really, there's certain styles of play that translate very effectively in one versus the other. And I think Chile's style, I mean, what we saw at, especially this most recent Copa America, in that kind of one-on-one playoff knockout stage sort of configuration, they're extremely effective. And we saw the way they destroyed Mexico, for example. I mean, it was just amazing to behold. But part of me wonders what I said about Argentina and their 2 very painful, or 3 very painful losses consecutively. Whereas Chile has a little bit too much of the other type of hangover, where they're so overjoyed at having one of those tournaments that they haven't really been able to focus. Having won, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Chile had ever won Copa America prior to 2015, and now they win back-to-back Copa Americas. I think psychologically you just have to refocus. I mean, they have very competitive players in Alexis Vidal and Bravo, and they have players that are very used to playing with each other. So I think, there's no excuse for them to be summoned. It's a matter of refocusing and trying to harness the type of synergy that gave them those championships.
Yeah, I mean, for Chile, it was their first championship winning the Copa America since 1991. So it's been a while. Or sorry, no, they were the host that year. But it's been a while since they've actually won one. If I'm not mistaken, let me look. And their first ever championship was... Nope, it's actually those were their first ever. So back-to-back, I completely agree on the hangover. You have world-class players. You have the talent that most teams in CONMEBOL do not have.
Right.
When you have the winger, you have a gritty midfielder that will hustle back for the ball. And again, Bravo, mistake free or not, he's still one of the better goalkeepers in CONMEBOL. Yeah. And so you think with that talent, overall they should be fine, but it's going to be an issue. I completely agree. It's going to be an issue moving forward. And being in that 7th spot, yeah, you're going to have some tough games. And no game, it's all really close. Again, it's not that they're too far behind. All teams, the top 7 teams are separated by 7 points. So it's not like it's that difficult to come back, but it is definitely shocking to see them at this point in the stage, with about a year left of qualifiers left to go, that they're not in consideration right now if it were to end today. So we're going to move over to Europe for the final topic of World Cup qualifying. One of the Cinderella sweethearts in Iceland. I mean, they won everyone's heart at the Euros, including myself, beating England. That was a momentous moment. I loved it every single moment watching it live. But right now they're right there. The only 3 games so far for all Euro teams. But right now they sit at the 2nd spot in the final group, in Group I, with Croatia. For me, Iceland, I think they would be the Cinderella story if they were to make a full World Cup. And how cool would that be, Tomas? How cool would that be?
It would be very exciting. I mean, we forget that's a nation of 300,000 people. I mean, you're out there in Portland. I mean, that's smaller than the city of Portland. This is the city has more people than the whole country of Iceland. And you're right. The fact that they knocked out England and had such a successful run at the Euros, absolutely it made them darlings. I think deservingly so, and they did it with grit. They did it with discipline. So I think there's a lot of people cheering Iceland on and hoping to see them. So and I agree. Like I'm included in the bunch. I think at the end of the day, it was 2 months when they played against France. I think they kind of just ran out of steam. You're going against a host nation that has some extremely talented players. That proved too much. But the fact that they're still playing competitively didn't let their Euro performance get to their heads and are now underperforming in qualifiers. That's pretty exciting to see.
Yeah, look, the group isn't the sexiest group of the bunch. I mean, it's Croatia, Ukraine, Turkey, Finland, and Kosovo, the first-time entrants. But, again, it's still a pretty good group, to especially teams that have been in the World Cup like Ukraine, like Turkey, who, again, have talent on an international level, and they're still beating these teams, which is very impressive. The next group I'm going to talk about is Group G, with Spain and Italy leading the group, and no doubt in my mind these 2 teams are going to make it to the World Cup. Spain's went over a big overhaul in talent after their disastrous 2014 World Cup. Is Spain's new coach gonna try to play the same style, or what's going to have to change with Spain to be competitive at this next World Cup, Tomas?
Spain needs to really do some serious soul searching, both tactically and then as far as personnel. I think there's a lot of debate as to whether their very possession-driven style is outdated, whether people figured it out or not. I personally don't think it is. I think it's a matter of the best players that in Xavi, in Iniesta, that they either have gotten older or they've retired. So I think that generation has, they have aged. I still think that the style of play that, for example, Germany had in 2014 is not different at all from that Spain 2010 style. And this is one of my observations, and this is people get surprised when I say this. But to me, the secret behind the last 2 World Cups as to why the teams Spain 10 and Germany 14 won, the secret behind both of them was Pep Guardiola. Pep was the coach of Bayern which was the base of that German team in 2014. And he was the coach of Barcelona, which is the base of the Spain team in 2010. And Spain 10 and Germany 14 both played like Barca and Bayern respectively. So I still think there's a lot of merit to that style of play. And Spain perhaps just needs to refresh it. I mean, they can... they can't just trust in, we have Sergio Ramos and Piqué back there. Well, Piqué has his political issues too, but beyond that, Sergio Ramos and Iniesta. I mean, these guys are getting older, so I think for them, it's a challenge to, on the one hand, not make the older guys feel like, well, they're getting kicked out the door, but also feel like, well, we need to bring up young talent and have them make their own mark. Now, if it so happens that the young talent leads the team in a different direction and evolves in a different way, so be it. I mean, like as we were talking about in our earlier segment, Barcelona now versus Barcelona in 2009, it's a very different style of play, and yet it's also very effective. So I think, Spain needs to do some serious soul searching and invest in that young talent and see what direction that young talent takes them in.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of talent for Spain. There's always a depth. It's just a matter of when they get their call up and how effective they're going to be, because unlike other rosters around the world that build around stars, Spain tries to build the team. So you're going to hear some players that you probably, again, typically Barcelona, Real Madrid, other big clubs are going to have a good amount of influence in the Spanish national team, but you're going to find players from other clubs that, for that team, are a key component into their overall success, which is why Spain was so successful in 2010 and why I think they weren't in 2014. I just think that they just were relying on too much star power that had gone past their prime and just wasn't good at that point. But for Spain, I think the big overhaul of talent, trying to bring in these new players and get them pretty good playing time, has led to players like Nolito playing some minutes, Marco Asensio, who's been phenomenal at Real Madrid thus far, and finally De Gea, much overdue, being the number one in Spain, which is one that, again, it's been long discussed and needed to happen. On the flip side, going to Italy, Buffon's is still, but overall, other than that one mistake that he had against Spain in the World Cup qualifiers, he's been phenomenal, and he's 39.
I think you could argue goalkeeper is the one position where you can play into a more advanced age, but it's still very impressive what Buffon in his late 30s is doing. I mean, it looked like he hasn't missed a beat. I mean, he did let the PK against Germany in that PK knockout stage in the Euro, but goodness, I mean, he's been absolutely terrific, both for Juventus and then and for Italy as well. Italy was fun to watch for me. I have to say, I enjoyed watching them in the Euro. I don't often say that because, again, I'm more of a fan of the more passing possession-driven style, more like a Spain style. But Italy was refreshing. I mean, I think a lot of people, when you have that Belgium versus Italy matchup, just based on star power, people expected Belgium to win, and Italy said, not really. I mean, you do know who you're playing. You do know we're 4-time world champs, and they really brought it, and I think schooled Belgium. I mean, as far as which was a fresh iteration on classic Italian tactics of just this very lively, like as soon as they, let's say not lively the way in a more traditional attacking style, but a very lively counterattack. But like they would do their press, and the instant that they recovered the ball, goodness, you would see the whole team just move without the ball in these very precise patterns, so as to get the counter in an extremely dangerous fashion. So to me, that was a very exciting version of Italy, even without having the Filippo Inzaghi type players, the Tottis that they have had in the past. It was still or the Diegos. I mean, they didn't have any such superstars up top, and yet it was. I mean, they had quite a show. I mean, they gave Germany everything they could handle in that knockout game of the year.
So do you think that overall, as an international goalie, do you think Buffon has had overall the best possible international career of a goalkeeper? And granted, his first start was back in 1998, which, to put in perspective, the starting goalie at AC Milan, Donnarumma, was born a year later. So that kind of puts in perspective how crazy and how long of a career and successful he has. So
yeah.
Does he belong up there, top 3 all-time great international goalies and great goalies in general?
Yes,